Hello, and welcome to Pep Talks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing Pep Talks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of #BlazeItForward. Over the past 6 years, Pep Talks evolved. I now use it for interviewing people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. And with that, we have our next guest, Linda Alva.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure. I have wanted to talk to you since I heard your story, which really I think it touches everybody, everyone that knows you and people that don't know you and that will meet you. I'm going to let Linda tell you what happened and I hope, and if you have trouble, you can stop and take a break we'll both try to hold it together as well as we can.
It's such an honor to be here. And I've heard so many amazingly wonderful things about you and just throughout the years, all that you've done, to bring awareness, not only to the gay community, but to paying it forward and teaching people to touch the other lives of strangers. So, we're connected through the common loss of a child. Unfortunately, we both know the pain about
Can
losing a child.
I see your son's picture?
Yes,
we're gonna put his picture up for everybody to see. Beautiful boy.
Beautiful boy.
Beautiful.
Yes. That's Tristan. And
do you mind if I keep it like
absolutely.
that? Absolutely. Okay.
We'll put the little kitty in front of it.
He's so beautiful. Everybody should see him.
Tristan passed away July 21st, 2021 of an accidental fentanyl overdose. And what I would like to bring to awareness is that my son grew up in Newport Beach in Bonita Canyon, Gate Guard community. He was a very privileged child. If he had trouble in math, we got him a math tutor. If he wanted to play an instrument, we got him music lessons and bought him a guitar. He went to one of the best high schools in the country and studied animation. He went to Orange County School of the Arts. And nobody is off limits in regards to mental health problems and addiction.
Yes. We are all susceptible. Nobody's privileged.
Yes. And I'd like to bring awareness to his story because I want to remove the stigma that people have to endure from having mental illness and also addiction, because people are ashamed. And I know that Tristan struggled with his mental health and he struggled with addiction as well. And I think that he didn't seek help because of the embarrassment that came with it. People think that it's a moral issue.
And a lot of times kids will self-medicate when they don't know how to handle.
Absolutely. And at a very young age, Tristan was given medication for ADHD and then later medication to the counter effects of when the medication would wear off, oh no, we need something to give to him at night now. And then later he had some depression, so we'll give him some antidepressants. And then a buffer to make some medication to make the antidepressants work better. And then some sleep medication. And then let's have some benzos for anxiety. And I think that all these drugs in his system were not good for his developing brain. And then he used a lot of cannabis products as well. So he had a lot going on. And I think this maybe would have helped numb his brain in many ways the way he wanted it to, but it also made him addicted to a lot of different substances.
Okay. And it's really important for this audience to understand that really the thing that we can prevent here, we can't prevent mental health. We can't prevent addiction, but we can get the word out that fentanyl is a problem. and it is affecting a lot of families. And unfortunately, Linda's son, I don't know how he came by it. I'm sure you'll explain it to us, as you know everything about it. But yes, it's a beautiful thing that you're willing to share your son's struggles. My son also struggled with mental health issues, and probably for a lot of the same reasons. Very creative, high energy children, and very entertaining people, very smart people. Yes. And yeah, these are the kinds of kids that, get into shenanigans. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's so unfortunate. So unfortunate, but I know this is so hard for you.
Yeah, I think that Tristan was the quintessential artist that was so highly creative. He was a singer and songwriter. He was a sculptor. He obviously made animations. He drew on everything. From the point in life he could grasp a pen or a pencil in his hand, the world became his canvas. And art was just, coming out of him all over the car, all over the tables, the floors, the walls, everywhere he could draw, he would draw. I knew I had an artist on my hands. And it was later that he started struggling with his mental health, and just that quintessential artist who is so highly creative but also struggles. Sometimes they go together.
Wow. But he had such a tremendous opportunity to be able to go to OSHA. I mean, you had to have been behind that. You had to be helping him get in there. I know I had to help Blaze quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because this is an audition only, one of the highest quality arts programs in the country for high school students, which Blaze and Tristan apparently were classmates because they were only a year apart in school and knew each other. They were friends. I remember Blaze talking about Tristan, so I know they were friends.
Definitely.
Yeah, this it's so heartbreaking for me to see your pain right now. I know that and everybody around us, and I know people feel the same way about me. We feel helpless. Nobody wants to see the suffering, and we're all sad that these tremendous humans are not with us anymore. And it's a pain that will never go away. You just have to learn to manage it. And every day I wake up and say, what am I going to be doing today for my mental health? What am I not going to be doing today for my mental health? What are the modalities I have learned in life so that I can be happy and find joy, bring honor to my son, and just not lose it and not be sad, depressed, and grief-stricken? It's really hard. Every single day I have to set my mind to that. I miss him tremendously, as you know. Yeah.
Not a day goes by. The pain is gut-wrenching. It's unspeakable. And
I understand that. That I understand. Well, I will tell you, it's been over 6 years now for me. And I think it was really only in the last year that I have felt like I have made any progress in dealing with my own grief. And when I say progress, I mean, I cried a lot last year, and it took a long time for me to be able to just do that. A long time.
Yeah, I know how that is. I think that, in the very beginning, you're surrounded by friends and family, and you just get so much love and so much support. And then, people kind of go back to their lives, which is to be expected. But meanwhile, we're left reeling, and losing a child, they say, is the hardest thing to go through, and it truly is.
I've never dealt with anything harder in my entire life. And I haven't had the worst struggles in life. I haven't had the easiest life, but this, I mean, I don't know about you, but I have before and after. And you're not very far away yet, but I'm already 6 years away. So I think of my life now as bifurcated, the good part and now the I don't know part. Because
you're almost like a different person.
It's hard to imagine your life going forward without your dream of the future. Dreams. So, and I still struggle with that because I had a vision of what my life was supposed to look like and who was going to be with me at my deathbed. And, you just have this idea about where your life is going. and what you're supposed to be doing here. And then you question everything like, well, okay, so you took my dream away. Now what? Does everything fall apart? Or
Exactly.
how do you go forward? So you have to build something for yourself that is
something I've come to realize is that life just doesn't turn out like you expect it that it will turn out. And becoming a parent gave me so much purpose in life. And having a child that was so entertaining and was just brought me so much joy, but also struggled, brought me so much purpose in life. And I feel like I lost a lot of my purpose when I lost him. He was my pride and joy, and he was my blood, sweat, and my tears. And I have two beautiful, amazing, healthy, wonderful daughters who bring me so much joy. So I'm extremely grateful for that. But Tristan was, he was a lot. He was, my heart and soul. He was my child. Mm-hmm. And I was so incredibly proud of him. It was so much fun raising him. It was so much fun going to all his art shows, and he'd say, "Mom, I have a new song," and he'd play it for me. And, it just brought me so much joy.
I'm sure it brought a lot of people joy.
Yes, a lot of people joy for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, the number one cause of death in the United States is fentanyl overdose.
Number one of all demographics?
18 to 45-year-olds.
And those are people that should not be part of any statistic.
No.
They should be healthy,
not.
happy, productive people. But unfortunately, drug dealers can make more money when they use fentanyl.
Yes. And half of all drugs are laced with fentanyl. And it's a very small amount that is a lethal dose. If you look at a penny and you see Abraham Lincoln's nose, that teeny tiny nose on a penny, that is the amount of fentanyl that is lethal and will kill people. So that's important to know. 95% of all opioid deaths in the United States are from fentanyl. Wow. So it's scary out there. For this age demographics, people need to carry Narcan with them.
Okay. That's something that we're going to put up during the video portion.
Okay.
We will have a picture of Narcan. I actually have it on my phone ready to go.
Okay.
So we will have that up. And that is important. And I encourage everybody here to Google it, Narcan, Narcan. Mm-hmm. And you should inquire or find out if it would be a good idea for you to carry one. Put one in your car. Mm-hmm. And it may never be used by you for anybody you know. It could be for a stranger.
Absolutely.
So, but it's a great thing to have with you in the event that somebody has overdosed. Now, one thing I did learn when I investigated it is that Narcan only works if you can get life-saving help within minutes of using it.
So if you believe someone is overdosing, and the signs include pinpoint pupils, very slowed breath, and if they're unresponsive, you can administer Narcan. You put one up one nostril and spray it once, and if they are not overdosing, it has a neutral effect. So if you give someone Narcan, it's not going to cause any problems. But if they are overdosing, it's going to probably save their lives. So you give that to them, and you can wait 2 minutes. And if they don't respond, you can take the second dose, because Narcan comes in 2 doses, spray it up the other nostril. And then during that time, you call 911. You always want to call 911. So spray the first dose, call 911, and then you spray the second dose if they are not responsive. And then it's also important to know that the reason why you call 911 is because they can overdose a second time. So they can actually be revived, and then they can overdose within 30 to 90 minutes. So
yeah, if they have enough in their stomach or bloodstream.
And you might not be the one doing drugs. You might be at a party where someone does drugs. You might be at a bar. You could be anywhere, and you could save a life.
Yeah. And it's so easy just to carry one. My friend Helen, who was here yesterday, she had one in her purse.
Mm-hmm. You take it in your backpack, your purse, wherever you go.
She never uses drugs. She just carries that for other people. So
yes, and people say, well, my kids don't do drugs. They don't need to carry it. Well, that's really great. But what if someone around them is doing drugs? Or what if someone gets something that's laced and unintentionally overdoses? And also, it's really important to know that there's a Good Samaritan law that protects people so that you can call 911 and you won't get in trouble if they arrive and there's illicit drugs around or you're high. And sometimes people are scared to call 911. They don't want to be in trouble. So there's a Good Samaritan law that prevents this.
Yeah.
And also using fentanyl testing strips to test the drugs.
That's right. You can test drugs to see if they've been tainted.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother process. You can go online and type in free Narcan. I'm not exactly sure what websites will be able to provide the information, so I don't want to say exactly where to go.
I think you can go to CVS and they'll give you one if you ask for it.
Yeah, it's about $50, but you can get free Narcan. And also, if you Google any type of harm reduction facilities in your area, you can get free Narcan at those places.
Okay. So any, like a charter hospital or any place.
Yeah, just say harm reduction and you can go get free Narcan from there.
Well, this is all very good information. I hope people listen and,
I hope so
and
too.
do something. I wish I had known about this sooner. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my daughter had parties here and I don't know if a kid might have been using something and we didn't have that here. I mean, we could have had an issue and I could have, and we wouldn't have been able to help because we didn't even know this existed. So this is really important information. I hope they have public service announcements on regular television that people watch that they can learn about this.
I think that's increasing, not as rapidly as I wish it would. There's countless people that I've spoken to that don't even know, well, what is fentanyl? What is Narcan? What is this? You know, and so at this point, everybody in the United States and basically in the world should know what fentanyl is because it is the number one killer.
Yeah. I think a lot more parents will come forward and talk about this and will make us more aware that this is a real problem. And it's so great that you're doing this. I know it's not easy.
No, it's not. And, as far as when my children were younger and my 3 children being my purpose in life, my purpose now is sharing my son's story and bringing awareness to these issues, including mental health issues.
Yes.
And I always tell all my son's friends and my children's friends, I am here for you. I am here for you. Without judgment, I will always be here for you. My girls will always be here for you. Come to us for anything.
Wonderful. That's a great policy to have. I know. We were always, very open with our kids too. But luckily my kids didn't get in trouble or we just never found out about it. So probably the latter, but you never know. Well, okay. So this is all like a lot, probably a lot for our audience to take in too. Your tremendous loss. And now you're trying to do something really beautiful to help other people, because this has given you a new inspiration for your dream of the future is to help other people.
Yes.
So, and that's an amazing thing. And it's so good for you too.
Yes. And before my son passed away, it was really during around, quarantine 2020, a lot of people started meditating and learning, different things that you normally wouldn't have time to learn. And I started listening to podcasts about spirituality and I started meditating a lot and I started doing a lot of yoga and I started realizing that these things were healing me from trauma of my past. And without having known about these modalities, it would have been much more difficult for me to process what happened with my son. So I was able to turn to yoga, turn to meditation, turn to my breathing techniques. And that was part of what has helped me heal. And going forward, I have since learned how to do those things and teach other people how to meditate, yoga, and I'm going to become a certified somatic healer. I'm going to a training next month. So all of these things that have helped me, I want to help other people.
That is fantastic.
A lot of people don't know how to heal from trauma. And
I don't.
it's more than therapy, and it's more than taking medication. There's so many things that you can do. And I just want to spread the word to other people.
Yeah, yoga and meditation are great ways to calm your mind. And I have found that I have a spiraling mind. But your mind isn't you. It's just part of the body that you inhabit.
Exactly. And you can release a lot of your trauma through your body.
Yes. And you need to.
It'll come out in other ways. It'll come out in nightmares or hives, or you need to get it out.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially when you've been through catastrophic events.
Yeah. You need to watch your health too. I will tell you that after what happened to us, my immune system just completely turned off for quite a long time. And I've been battling many serious issues since then.
Yeah, you definitely have to prioritize your health, prioritize how you eat, how you sleep. I don't really drink alcohol because it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Maybe it used to make me happy, but it doesn't make me happy anymore. And you just have to prioritize your health, your mental health, your physical health going forward almost every single day. Like I said, that's what I think about every single day. What am I going to do today and what am I not going to do?
Well, you've found some coping strategies that seem to work well. I also have struggled. And I remember when I was probably at about 2-3 years out, I still was not doing well. I just couldn't move forward. I couldn't. You seem to be a lot more composed than I was, but I'm sure you have your bad days too.
I definitely have my bad days. In fact, the last 6 months have been harder for me than the first 6 months were.
Well, that's what happens.
Yeah, it's sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Absolutely.
And the things that trigger me, and I'm sure it's the same with you, are things that are unexpected. Like I can talk about my son and be fine. I can talk about his art, his music, whatever it is, and be fine. And people tend to be afraid to ask about him. They think you're just going to lose it. But it's the little things that will trigger me, things that are very unexpected. And, one of his friends sent me a picture of his desk at CalArts where he went to college. And he said, I found this picture of Tristan's desk because it was so cool because he drew all over the desk and all over the walls. And he sent it to me, and there was just like a half-drinking glass of something and some, paintbrushes and some water and all his art everywhere. And just staring at this thing was just like so heartbreaking for me. It was so subtle and so beautiful, but he just wasn't in that chair, and he never will be in that chair again. And it was just...
That's really hard.
Yeah, but I was so grateful to have that photo.
I was going to say, I remember the things that have happened that have been surprising like that for me have been finding things in Blaze's stuff that I didn't expect to find, like finding personal notes that he might have left inside of a book or a letter that somebody wrote him, or different various things that I found. And every time I found one, I felt like I was so happy. Like I had found a treasure, an absolute treasure that had been revealed. Like something about Blaze had been revealed to me when it was supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I know that exact feeling. It's just those little intimate things.
Yeah,
those are the ones that really get you. And like you said, it's almost like a little treasure hunt, like a little sign from him that he wanted to send to you.
Yeah, I don't know if this happened to you. It probably did. But at OSHA, Blaze's English teacher, when he was a junior, had them write a letter to their future self that would be mailed by her to whoever they addressed it to when they finished college. So this teacher had this letter from Blaze, and she sent it to us. And we held on to it for a while, and we ended up opening it up a year or so after. I blocked it out. It was very traumatic, though. It was very traumatic to read that. And she told us, too, it was unusual. Most of the kids sent the letters to themselves. He addressed his to us.
To you. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. OSHA's an amazing place. It's a special school.
It really is. I'm so glad our boys got to go there.
I am so happy also. I cannot imagine if my son had gone to, our local public school, which is an amazing school. My daughters thrived there, but he was able to do his art, from after lunch till 5 p.m. and be an artist and be around like-minded people. And I'm so grateful for all those long car pulls up there and it's sometimes an hour and a half, just so that he could live his dream.
Wow.
I'm very grateful for that.
Wow. I'm glad that you can see that the glass is half full.
Yeah, I try.
It's hard. It is hard.
It's not always glass full. I try. Every day I try.
I know.
I enjoy every day.
I think one of the things that did help me was, like, in the last couple of years, I read a book that Blaze had wanted me to read for a really long time. And it's a book by Mitch Albom. It's not Tuesdays with Morrie, although that was his favorite book. I will get the name of it for you. I have it upstairs. But this particular book is about Mitch's writing the eulogy for a rabbi, his rabbi from growing up. So this is like his spiritual leader his entire life, this author. He goes back to his hometown and this rabbi says, "I'd like you to write my eulogy," because Mitch is a very famous writer at this time. And he's not dead yet, but he's like, "I want you to do it." And as part of that eulogy, Mitch finds out that he lost a child. This rabbi had lost a child when she was little, like maybe 6 or 7 years old, to disease. And he asked the rabbi, he said, "How do you still believe in God? Like, how do you do this losing?" And he said, "Oh, of course I still believe in God, because I treasure the time that I had with her. It was a gift." And after I started to look at it that way, it changed everything for me.
That is such an important point, because so many people tend to think about the person and that they died, they passed away, and the anniversary of their passing. But I had 22 years with my son.
You got 3 more than me.
And he brought so much joy to my life. And I know that as what, Blaze would want and what Tristan would want is to be remembered for their life.
Yes.
All the joy that they brought, the happiness, the art they brought into the world, the music, the writing.
Their creations.
Their love. That's what they would want to be remembered for. Not just that.
Not their death.
This is how I died, and this is sad that I died, and you cry every day. And trying to pull that back in and remember that.
Yeah.
And Tristan was very protective of me in many ways. And sometimes, when I'm having a hard day, I think, like, what would Tristan say to me right now? And it becomes so clear. No, Mom. No, don't do that. Do this instead. No, you don't, da. He was very, very passionate about human rights. And he would, encourage me to follow certain, Instagram pages to stay on top of news for different things. And don't follow this, follow that. And he was, like, very protective of his friends. And I remember one of his friends was and he told me, "You need to change the name in your contacts to the new name of my friend, and you have to erase it." And he was, very, very, strict with me about doing that, and just very protective of his friends. And I loved that about him.
Oh.
Yeah. So just remembering all the joy and happiness they brought.
I try to remember. I try to think of. I try really hard to reframe it in my own mind as it's not a loss. It was a gift. The time was a gift to me. It changed my whole life. It made those 19 years fun. Yeah. It made it challenging sometimes. Blaze was a challenging kid. But he was my firstborn, and he was the one that made me a mom. So you always kind of have that with kind of connection with your oldest. I don't know if Tristan was your oldest.
He was my middle child, but I remember you saying that.
Yeah, I had a special, some kind of a connection with Blaze. I think also maybe personality wise, he was like my best girlfriend, like in some ways. Even though he was very male, he was also, he was just, we had so much in common. We loved to cook together and hike together and go out to eat together. He was my buddy when we weren't fighting. That was often too.
Yeah, but
that was all part of it.
That's what best friends do. Yeah, they argue a lot.
We fought, and then we would be friends again a few minutes later.
let's start over again. It's a new day. Let's start fresh.
Blaze was very forgiving that way. In fact, I used to fight with my father a lot in front of Blaze, and Blaze would get mad at my dad too. And Blaze said to me, one of the last things Blaze said to me when he was at the house was that I should be a lot nicer to my dad because he can't help it.
Because he can't help it.
He can't help it, Mom. Just be nicer to your dad. I'm like, wow, this kid has got...
And taking some advice from him.
Got some skills. I'm like, wow. Nice, Blaze. But yeah,
gosh,
so...
I love that. That's so cute.
Yeah, I think like every grieving person has like one nugget to share with you that can help you along in your journey of... the more people I talk to, I usually get something from them that like stays with me, that helps me cope with this tremendous loss also. I feel like all of these parents, you and all of the women that I have met in the bereavement group I went to, there were quite a lot of people that had lost children to fentanyl, that particularly in the last 3 years. So this is an epidemic, clearly.
It's an epidemic.
It is an epidemic.
Unfortunately, killing our youth.
It is. It's killing a generation of artists and doctors, potentially, and human rights activists.
No one. I have met so many parents who have lost children to fentanyl, and it's all across the board.
It can be anybody, and you're not. There's nobody's privileged, because in fact, privileged kids are probably getting access to drugs laced with fentanyl, maybe more than anybody else, because they might have, easier access to supply lines.
Yeah, there's no one is off limits.
No one
in regards to this. And that's something that's really important to know. Just because your child was, born in a certain city or a certain place, it doesn't make him more likely to be exposed to a fentanyl overdose or have friends that are exposed to it. And we just have to keep in mind, this is the number one killer of 18 to 45-year-olds.
Number one killer. Mm-hmm. Every parent should know about this. It's almost a crime that it is not something that we are all instructed about. When our kids probably are tweens, we should be talking about this with them.
Yes. And I tell parents, speak to your child about your teenager about carrying Narcan when they go to college, as you would about sending them with, protection, sending them with condoms, whatever, it's just send them with that also. Mm-hmm. That's a no-brainer.
It really is. And now that I know about it, I'm going to send one to my daughter at school. And my son too, because he can keep one in his car.
I can help you get some too.
That would be great.
Yes,
I would love that. And we're going to put up something here so that our listeners who are watching on YouTube will see a way that they can also get something quickly and inexpensively.
Okay, perfect.
Or free.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. So we'll have that up right here. And it'll go, and they can even show it while we're talking.
Okay, good.
Into the next segment so that it's up and people can look at it. Okay, so this happened 2.5 years ago. I don't know if you want to share where this happened, how this happened. I know that it's really difficult to talk about these things, and it makes people uncomfortable. If it makes you uncomfortable and you don't want to talk about it, I completely understand. But I think that when people hear these stories, it brings it home and they remember. And they have an emotional response to it that's so strong that they don't forget. And they will remember to go talk about this. So that's the only reason I think it would be good to talk about what happened.
Yes, and I do want to talk about it because it is so tragic, and I don't want any parent or child to go through what my family has had to go through. So even if 2 people listen or 2,000 people listen, I'm happy to change lives, to help people. So like I said, Tristan was an artist, highly talented, and highly emotional. Isle said he was sort of like the yin and the yang. He was love and rage. He was light and dark. He was as lonely as he was popular. He was a juxtaposition of emotions. He was quick to anger, quick to forgive. And he had a storm going on in his brain that he had a hard time calming. And, along with all the pharmaceutical medication he was given, I know he was smoking a lot of weed. Weed is legal. And I, of course, had no idea how much. He was away at college. And there came a point when I saw a significant amount of cash withdrawals out of his bank account. And so I actually stopped giving him money. And I said, if you need groceries, I'm going to get you Instacart. If you need a ride, I'll call you an Uber, whatever you need, but
You took cash out of the equation.
yes, absolutely. Just, just seemed like the right thing to do. But he always had everything he needed. And I come to find out after his passing that he had been addicted at one point around 2019, highly addicted to Xanax. Ooh. And which just makes me so angry that, there's drug dealers out there that have no problem giving like my child whose brain hasn't even grown yet, how much Xanax that he wants. And he apparently had a Xanax addiction, and then that stopped and he stopped using for a while. And then he started up again during the pandemic. And I think that being isolated, not being able to go to school, having everything digitalized made his depression worse. He didn't have a lot of socialization, and his computer broke, and it just seemed like everything was kind of falling apart for him, and not having, the necessary things that you would have in college, like having to get up and go to school and get dressed and shower and whatever it is, but instead rolling out of bed and just opening your computer, can make someone with mental health just have no joy in life and no purpose. And he was only making digital animations as opposed to like puppetry and stop motion clay and all this really fun stuff that he got to do, collaborating with other artists. All that was taken away from him. And I've even heard that the word, the Xandemic, because a lot of people did start self-medicating significantly during the pandemic. So he was definitely doing a lot of Xanax, and he told me, Mom, don't worry, I only smoke weed, and I don't even smoke weed anymore. I don't like it. Don't worry, Mom, don't worry, Mom. And I was, Tristan, I'm really worried about you. You're not going to work very much, and I'm really worried about, all these different things. Don't worry, Mom. And sometimes I wouldn't hear from him for a couple days, and I'd say, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to come over and, walk in your place, and he'd say, no, don't worry. Just always reassuring me. But as a mom, like, you just feel like something's off, but you can't put your finger on it. And I didn't have any way of proving anything until the sheriff coroner gave me his phone. And then I did find out on July 21st, 2021, that my son had overdosed in the middle of the night. And they found drug paraphernalia. That's why they assumed it was an overdose. But it did take 90 days for toxicology. And Tristan had fentanyl in his system. And he had some opioids. He had some morphine and several other drugs in his system, including Tylenol and some, benign things. He had cannabis in his system. But it was the fentanyl that killed him. And I know now that he actually had smoked fentanyl. He could have also had his the illicit Xanax that he purchased from a drug dealer could have been laced as well. He was vlogging for a couple days before his passing. And we got into his computer, and he was, talking about his day and how difficult his day has been, and how He was struggling a lot, and he did mention that he had smoked fentanyl.
Like on purpose?
Yes. And I'm being very honest about this because it's important to know that Tristan came from a nice family. He came from a nice neighborhood. He came from a nice part of town. He was very privileged. And what led to this, it was not something that happened overnight. It was this slow crawl from, I'm being given medication when I'm 8 years old. And they're bumping up, giving me all this more medication, and then the self-medicating, and the self-medicating increasing and increasing and increasing to the point where all of a sudden, there's something available that's stronger.
Yeah.
So it happens slowly, and it can happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
So I'm being very honest about that. So
that's really brave of you. You're a very brave woman.
Thank you. And I am sure that this is not something that he had ever done. So it creeps up on people.
Yes, it does.
And during his vlogging, it was a few hours before he passed away, I actually called him. And so there is a video recording of my last phone call with my son, and he kept the video going, and we're speaking, and I'm talking to him for about 40 minutes on the phone. And so I have that video of he and I speaking.
And it was right before it happened?
Right before, I love you, and,
wow.
everything. Got to say all this, wonderful things to each other, and not knowing it was my last phone call with my son. So when I went through his phone, I did find text messages from a man who was selling my son the Xanax.
Was he prosecuted?
Interestingly, no. I took my son's phone to the Costa Mesa police, and they had promised me that they were going to arrest this person, and he had been on their radar. They knew who he was, and I was so brave for coming forward, and they thanked me, and he needs to get off the streets. And they wanted to take my son and make a copy of the phone. And they kept his phone for about a week. And when I went to pick up the phone, nobody really knew what I was talking about. No, they didn't make a recording of the phone. And then the officer in charge of my case just completely ghosted me, dropped me like a hot potato. And here I'm thinking they're going to arrest this person. And I come to find out that being a drug dealer is actually a misdemeanor. And it's no different than bunny hopping a stop sign, which is misdemeanor. And
even if you kill someone? I don't think it matters.
They are trying to change the laws right now and make, if someone sells you illicit drugs and you die from it, for it to be second-degree murder, which would be 20 years in prison. So they're trying to change the laws right now.
So there's some kind of an assumption of risk when you buy drugs that you could die every time you buy them from one of these people?
Yes, there's definitely an assumption, but it's also a broken system where if someone is arrested for drug possession, then they can choose to go into drug rehab as opposed to prison. Mm-hmm. And so the dealers will say, oh, well, I'm an addict also. And then they're put into that category and they're allowed to go to rehab. And it's a circle, and it's just a circle. So,
and they probably sell to the people in the rehab too.
I'm sure they do.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a broken system. So in October of 2021, I found out that my son's dealer, the one who was selling him the Xanax, actually passed away from an overdose himself.
Oh, what a tragedy.
And it is a tragedy. But in my mind, he was off the streets and he wasn't going to be preying on people anymore, selling them drugs that could kill them. And it's a very sad situation. I mean, addiction's horrible. And I did meet with the Costa Mesa chief of police and tell him my story. And I did get an apology from the officer who took care of my case and apologized for ghosting me. And they just said, the system's broken. We're sorry. Oh. It was what I had gone through, losing a child and having gone through that. And I said, just at least give him a misdemeanor if he's supposed to get a misdemeanor. How about that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, that's kind of an amazing thing. I've heard this from police before. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just doing my job. Well, you're not
not even doing your job.
You're not effective. Well, ma'am, talk to your policymakers. I need better laws if you want me to be able to arrest people. If you want me to be able to investigate people, if you want me, I can't do it without that. We don't have the power.
Exactly. And that was one of the issues that they told me, but they weren't even, looking into it or arresting him or anything. They just,
because they're overwhelmed.
And there is a sign in the front of the police station that said, beware of stolen packages. And I was looking at that when I was talking to them, saying, wow, beware of stolen packages. How about beware of fentanyl?
Yeah. Why not put that up someplace?
Where can signs where people can get Narcan, fentanyl testing strips? That's what they need to have. They might now. This was in 2021. Mm-hmm. So
do you know if anything has been done on the educational side of this? Has there been any legislation to promote better educating the public about this? Because there's a lot of resources that could be thrown at this to make it a much more highly understood problem. I mean, this is an epidemic. We all know about COVID.
Yes, I believe that in the school systems now, they're having assemblies where they're educating people about, fentanyl crisis. Mm-hmm. And the teachers now have Narcan available at the school. I think the teachers have them in the classrooms.
Okay, so the students, to my knowledge, the students know more about this than their parents do, probably.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And my daughter Phoebe works for harm reduction at UC Santa Barbara, and she trains students on how to use Narcan and fentanyl testing strips, and they pass out free Narcan and also fentanyl testing strips, and they use my son's art for their logo. I'm so proud of her. So I know specifically at UCSB that there is a very good program. They're educating the fraternities. Oh, fantastic. More in common with you. And so I know Santa Barbara's doing a great job, and they also are training the fraternities and sororities, which is huge because, they've really big. Lots of parties going on there.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So your daughter's at UC Santa Barbara.
Yes.
She's a student, right?
Yes, she's a senior there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm really proud of her. She's done so much to bring awareness to harm reduction, overdose prevention, and just bring honor to Tristan. And it is a thing that she's truly the most passionate about in life.
Great.
Yes.
Wow. And what is your other daughter doing?
My other daughter, Addie, graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and she's a food scientist. And she loves what she does. I'm really proud of her also. My daughters are great. And honestly, the three of us have been through so much together, and we're so close. And I am incredibly grateful for those girls. They're such good humans. Mm. They have so much empathy for people. And
she had a great role model.
Thank you. And then, my son was the middle child. So they were both so greatly affected by his passing.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's so hard to hear about other people's pain. Yeah, but this is real. This is somebody's life here. This is a family lost their child to for a reason for not a good reason, for no good reason at all.
For no good reason, accidental. Tristan absolutely did not mean to pass away that night. I am positive.
But this is why it's so important that we do more for kids in the mental health side of things. I mean, it's obviously we've got a mental health crisis in this country, but the beginning would be destigmatizing it, because kids need to be able to get help. And there's so many kids that need it now because of social media.
Yes. Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah. Destigmatizing mental health and just not allowing drug addiction or addiction in general to be a moral issue, because once your brain becomes addicted to something, you have a new brain. Your brain works differently, and there's so much shame, and that's why people hide their addictions. I could become addicted. Anybody could. It's much different than a lot of people think it is.
Yeah. And there's different forms of addiction too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
There sure are.
some of them are more harmful than others. But, drugs and alcohol are some of the worst because unfortunately people die.
Yes.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's very innocent people, not just your son, but, innocent bystanders, accidents and yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
especially when alcohol is involved in driving.
Absolutely. And, addiction is really a big issue now too. I mean, these are all very current issues. And if you look at like, at different people, even in Orange County, like Mayor Beth Crom, her son, when you mentioned Santa Barbara, I thought of her immediately. She's no longer the mayor of Irvine, but before Blaze passed away, her son was drinking and fell off one of the bluffs there and died. Was killed.
Oh, yes, I've heard about that.
When he was young, he was only about 19 when that happened too. It's such a tragedy.
That's so tragic.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wish that would have happened with my son when I was taking him in for his mental health issues. Nobody said at that time, let's try, taking him to do some meditation. Let's take him to do yoga. Let's, there's so many things that he could have been doing.
He may have said no.
Pardon me?
He would have said no. He may have, he would have.
Well, I don't know. I just wish that there was, in addition, trying some things that are natural, holistic, just trying to calm his nervous system in ways aside from medication.
It's good for children to learn when they're young how to soothe themselves without drugs and how to calm yourself, how to calm your mind. I think that they are probably teaching kids more about this now than when we were growing up. It wasn't really a known thing.
It sure wasn't. Just you're sad. That's too bad.
Pretty much.
Just grow up.
Yeah, go read a book. That's what my parents used to say. Where's your book?
I know. And I know Tristan had oftentimes trouble with emotional dysregulation. And he depended on me so much to regulate his emotions. And I was the funnel that received all of his emotions, his anger, his sadness, his frustrations, whatever it was. I got to hear all of it. And I often didn't know what to do. It was so much for me. I tried so hard, and I hope I did a good job. I hope I tried my best, but I know so much more now.
I'm sure you did. Are you a single mother?
I am a single mom.
Okay. Were you always? I mean, or is this how long ago was this?
Since my youngest one was in kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've had full custody of the kids?
Basically.
Okay. So you were the parent, and that's a lot.
I was mom and dad.
A lot for 3 teens. It sounds like they were pretty close in age, these kids.
Oh, yeah.
So that is a whole lot for one person to be taking on. And you didn't have any choice. You didn't have somebody to help you.
No, I only knew what I knew. And, it's my first time going through life just like it is for my children and the things that I have experienced for the first time. Just because I'm an older adult doesn't mean that I'm better at it. I'm just trying my best.
Kids don't come with instructions. I've been trying to explain that to my kids, but I didn't know what I was doing. I did the best that I could. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you try and do your best, and you try and take what you learned from your parents that worked and do things on your own that you think might work better. And, my daughters say, you're the best mom. You did a great job. And hopefully they're not just being nice.
Yeah. When people complain now, I just tell them to go to customer service. I can't fix it anymore. It is what it is. When you only have so much time to work with your kids. And, once your kids, even when they're in high school, they're not probably listening to you anymore. They're listening to their peers.
And they are who they are also.
And yeah, they've developed. I think that they are fairly well developed probably by the 3rd grade. They are.
You can see their little personalities.
Oh yeah. They are who they are.
And even my kids were all, 3 in a row, and they all had the same food and the same bedtimes and the same storybooks, and they all turned out so different. An apple, banana, and a pear. And I didn't treat them any differently. They are who they are.
Yeah, because you were the only one there with them. So they definitely all got exactly the same thing, right? Yeah. But you do have your 2 girls, so that's
Yeah.
it has to be. I mean, you're lucky that you have 2 girls that you're close with. You really are.
Yes, yeah, I know that we all say we don't know what we would do without each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about what your life is like now that you're an empty nester, it sounds like.
I am. Well, let's see. I am a full-time Pilates instructor, and I built a studio in my home back in 2010. I was a school teacher before that. And I just decided that I wanted to be home with my kids in case they were sick or had dental appointments or needed carpool. And so I built a studio in my home so I could have my life revolve around my children as a single mom and still make a little bit of money. And I've been doing it now for 14 years.
Fantastic.
And so I do that. And then since that time, I have also become certified in yoga. So I teach some yoga here and there. And I also started a spiritual wellness group called The Gathering Place, Newport Beach, which I do with a girlfriend of mine. And we host spiritual events every month at my home.
Oh, I want to hear about this. Okay, we're going to get back to this.
And that's brought me a lot of joy because I feel like I'm able to take the modalities that I've used to heal and show other people. And some people who have come to our events have said, I've never meditated before, or I've never, whatever it is that we're doing that month. And they, find comfort in it, and they find healing and calmness and fun.
Yeah.
Like-minded people.
Yeah. So tell us about your spirituality.
So like I said, around the time of quarantine, I started, learning about meditation. And I was a member of a mega church close by here for years and years and years. And there are some things about organized religion that began to bother me. And some of the hypocrisies involved really started rubbing me the wrong way. And I thought about things that, Jesus said, and how a lot of the things that people were doing were not what Jesus said. And that started to really bother me. So I decided to explore on my own what made me feel good and explore my own spirituality. And I've healed so much by the things I have learned, listening to various podcasts, for example, and, YouTube videos and reading books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks on spirituality and incorporating that into my life on a daily basis. And I sometimes, I'll say, I'm having a really hard day today, and I'll go and I'll play my sound bowls, and I'll go through, the chakra healing, and say, I am safe and I'm grounded, and you just go through all the different levels.
That's so
and
cool.
it's so calming for me. And yeah, so that's really helped me a lot. Being out in nature is very calming. Knowing that I can use my breath to calm my nervous system. That's one of the systems in our body that we do have control over is our breath. And yoga's really helped me with that a lot.
Yeah, yoga is really good for that. I never realized the power of it, of breathing.
It's incredibly powerful, and I wish I'd have learned that a long time ago. It would have saved me a lot of insomnia. And
Definitely.
Yeah, so I feel like I am on a spiritual journey, and I don't think the journey is ever going to end, but I really love where I am right now in regards to that in my life. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I'm really proud of it too, because I've done it on my own, and I've become friends with a lot of like-minded people who'd like to do the same things I like to do. And it's just really comforting. And I can tell when I'm with like-minded people, and you can kind of feel it when you're not.
Yeah.
They say we all have a vibration. You can feel the vibration of people sometimes, and you're like, oh.
Isn't that the truth though? I feel people's vibrations too.
Yes.
I'm very sensitive to it. So I always get like either a good feeling about people right away. I get a very true, it's always accurate, good or bad, one way or the other.
Yeah.
I always know right away.
Yeah. And as soon as I met you, just, today, I got this instant feeling of like almost like kindred spirits with you. I feel this just instant like, oh, my gosh. Oh, I feel so sweet.
Well, you're very easy to connect with, I will say. You have a great smile.
Thank you.
And you wear a lot of your pain. I see it in your eyes, but that's because I recognize it. I don't think anybody else would notice it, but I know. And we're talking about hard stuff today.
Yes.
Very difficult stuff. I'm sure on most days you light up instantly when you see your clients and your friends.
Yeah.
And I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to put one foot in front of the other, and you have to continue living your life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when I'm having a hard day, I'm like, Tristan would not want me to be sad right now. He would tell me to do A, B, and C. You know, Mom, put your phone down. Mom, go out in nature. Mom, don't read this. Mom, do this. And I can hear his voice telling me what to do, almost bossy, you know? Wow. And I listen.
I'm going to start listening to Blaze. I need to start listening to him more.
I feel like they have a lot to say.
Yes.
And
where is Tristan now?
Maybe he's here with us.
Maybe.
I hope it's real. I have had a lot of really crazy things happen that I can't explain as being my imagination in regards to the possibility of, spirit world. And I've become like borderline obsessed with learning about it. And sometimes I believe it, sometimes I don't, but I've just had some things happen that I can't for the life of me explain. And I hope it's real.
I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I think they're all signs.
I think so too. And I want to believe that so badly. I have a very scientific mind, and I come from a very scientific family. So I struggle with that.
But you can't struggle with the fact of coincidence and statistical improbabilities.
Yes. One example, my son was a songwriter, and the first song he wrote was called Butterfly. And the days after his passing, he's written probably 50 different songs, all on SoundCloud. And I kept having this loop of a lyric in my mind: butterfly, won't you spread your wings? Don't you worry about all the silly things. Looping in my mind, just during this whole chaos of people coming over and, can I bring you a casserole, and here's some flowers, and just, that, you're having this out of body experience, and this is looping in my mind. And then my daughter Addie came up to me and she said, Mom, I can't get Tristan's song Butterfly out of my head.
Oh, your daughter had it going through her head
too. And I
too.
was like, is he trying to talk to us? And so I started asking for signs, and I didn't see butterflies, the little insects that fly around. They started coming to me in the form of art. And it dawned on me that he was an artist. And my butterfly coincidences that I've had happen are very unexplainable, like crazy things that I don't have any rhyme or reason for understanding how they've happened. Not just like, oh, I saw a butterfly fly by. It's been like more than that. And it just makes me, sometimes I'm a whisper, I'm like, Tristan, are you magic? Are you magic? You made that come out of nowhere. You made that person come by, and whatever it was.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I share your feeling about these things that seem to happen mysteriously, inexplicable. Mm-hmm. I've had a number of strange things happen as well. I mean, I think some people are probably more aware of them than others, because I've always, I've noticed them throughout my life. So okay. I see them as signposts, and possibly now even messages. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But I definitely think that we are here for a reason, and that this journey and the way that things have happened for a reason, and inexplicable to us, because we're just part of the fabric of this place. So someone explained it to me that we can only see one side of the tapestry, and it's not the front.
Oh, I love that.
So what looks like chaos to us is probably something very beautiful that someone else is watching right now.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And I love the analogy of the tapestry too.
Yeah.
And I hope it's real, because the idea that I could be reunited with Tristan at some point one day, and, you know, you with Blaze, is just makes me not afraid, you know, to transition. That's what I was told to call it, transitioning. And it makes me actually, you know, I'm in no way, shape, or form ready to go, but
you're not worried about it anymore.
Yeah, it makes me not worried about it at all, like really at all.
I feel the same way. I was much more fearful of death before I went through this experience. I think I almost lost all fear of it. Like, well, if Blaze experienced it, then it's good enough for me too.
Exactly. And especially knowing that there's a 100% chance it's going to happen to everybody, but normalizing not being afraid of it.
It's not normal, though, to not be afraid of death. We are odd, but as long as you don't like the idea of death, that's an entirely different thing. But yeah, I have definitely, going through this has changed the way that I see the world, the way that I see life. I think human life is valuable. It's valuable, and that's why we have to see it all the way to the end. You can't just stop because it's not fun anymore.
Yes. And to your point, every life is valuable.
Every life, and every day of your life is meaningful and valuable, even if you don't understand what that value and meaning is.
And sometimes you don't realize a bad day or a dark night of the soul was purposeful in transforming you into being a different person. And of all the things that I've gone through, of course, you know, losing my son will always be the worst thing I've ever gone through. But the person that I have become through my struggles, I'm really proud of. And I know that I've helped people. I've had a lot of kids, and I mean kids like college age and kids in their 20s, reach out to me and say, because of your story, I now go to therapy. Because of your story, I started going to AA. Because you shared Tristan's story, I no longer go to raves, and so on and so on and so on. Some people met Tristan one time, and they happened to follow him on Instagram, and we posted a lot of his Instagram became almost like a memorial. I would repost a lot of the posts his friends made. A lot of his friends got tattoos of his art, and a lot of people who met him one time got tattoos of his art. And he's saving lives from the other side.
So something good came out of this.
Yes. And that's why I'm very honest and open about my journey with him. And it's important to know that he was just an amazing, wonderful artist. He was silly. He was kind. He was a thrift shop fashionista. He was a songwriter. He was a movie maker. He loved nature, animals. And he was also someone who struggled, you know. We
all struggle. Some people struggle more than others, or maybe have less support than others, or at a different time of life. But your teenagers shouldn't be struggling to the point of addiction.
Absolutely.
And there's not very many resources for parents really to prevent their children from getting into trouble that way. There's nothing for us. And
sometimes we don't know. Like I said, I felt like something was off, and he said, "Mom, I only smoke weed," you know, and I'm like, "Well, don't smoke weed."
Just stop doing it then.
Just be a good boy. Just put only healthy things in your body, you know, and, but that's not what happened.
And I know. And I think back on all the things that we could have done differently, you know,
it'll
make you crazy. So I try not to worry about that. And I think that given our purpose here now to help other people through our own tragedy, and I do believe that there is meaning here for us. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was supposed to happen for us. I don't really believe that things happen necessarily. I don't think our kids died for a reason, but I
Yeah.
think that we are here for a reason. But I don't believe
Yeah.
that this had to happen for us to be able to do good in this world.
I agree. And, you know, people say life is happening for you, not to you. And I say, yeah, but what about the loss of a child? You know, that's not something that is that you can easily get over or explain away. It was supposed to happen. But like you said, we can heal people and we can help people and we can have purpose in life and we can try and educate others.
Yes. And you're doing that. And we're going to do it
As are
again,
you.
too. After, we're going to do this with you another time. Because I think that this is such an important message that we get out. So
Thank you.
yeah, we will do it. We will get this one out and then we'll do another one down the road, maybe 6 months or so out. But I do want to keep in touch with you. I'd like to see you
absolutely.
sooner rather than later.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I would love that.
You live so close to me.
9
Yeah,
minutes.
I know. So yeah, that's pretty close. Well, that's been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. And once again, I would like to thank our guest, Linda Alva.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
I loved having you. I think you are a beautiful soul. You're doing something that will help many people. I'm sure you have saved lives. And I hate to think that your son passed so that other people's children will live now. Yes. And perhaps I will be able to save lives too through the work that I do.
Yes.
Because maybe a parent will be able to help their kids stay out of trouble, the kind of trouble our kids got into. So, but yes, it's great getting to know you. This is kind of an interesting thing because most of the time I have people where I know their whole story and I know and I know the answers before they say them, but I really was not prepared for, I did not know exactly what you would tell me today. And I am very impressed with you're very composed and your message is clear and you have a great message that needs to get out. You need a platform for it. So I am delighted to be able to do that for you.
Thank you, Jeanne, so much for having me. It's truly been an honor to be here and to bring awareness to all the things we talked about. And for anybody seeking help, I encourage you to type in a search of where you can find free Narcan. It's available. And also fentanyl testing strips, and seek help, whether it's for mental health or for addiction. There is help out there. Thank you so much.
Hashtag Blaze It Forward is a campaign my family started to repair the world with kindness in honor of our son Blaze, who was murdered in 2018. You can learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference on our website, blazebernstein.org, www.blazebernstein.org, or on our Facebook group, hashtag Blaze It Forward. Special thank yous to all the volunteers who helped me with my philanthropic endeavors. And today, that thank you to my camera operator, audio technician, and producer, Eli Moskowitz, and his team, Bailey Kaufman and Robert Bylitz today. And a special shout out to my son, Jay Bernstein, who created the original theme song for this podcast. Thank you all again for joining me. I'm Jeanne Pepper, and this has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne.